You don't picture crime as a headset and a swivel chair. You picture masks, guns, dark alleys. But in a scam call center, the weapon is a sentence delivered politely. Hello, I'm calling because there's a problem. Not a real problem, an emotional one. A problem they create inside your chest. And the first thing you learn is simple. This isn't a bunch of random callers. It's a workplace, a schedule, a manager, a leaderboard, a script, a hierarchy. Law enforcement raids describe these groups like professional organizations with employees, roles, incentives, and people collecting the money. And that's what makes it scary. Because it means the scam isn't an accident. It's a system. Tonight, you're going to see every level of that system, scene by scene. Not as a guide, not as a flex, as a warning. What do you think it is? One bad person calling one victim. What it really is, a production line. Level 1 is the floor. Rows of desks, cheap headsets, a supervisor walking behind chairs like a shadow. You start as a trainee. They don't begin with crime, they begin with customer service. You get coached on tone, pacing, confidence. Because confidence is the first product. You're taught a simple truth. You're not selling a lie. You're selling urgency. You learn how fear works. People don't verify when they're panicking. People don't think in steps when they think in threats. People don't argue when they think they're about to lose everything. You also learn something colder. Your job isn't to convince smart people. Your job is to catch people on a bad day. The call center doesn't need everyone to fall for it. It needs enough. And the floor runs like a game. Calls made. Good conversations. Warm transfers. Because in many scam structures, the first caller is not the finisher. The first caller is a funnel. Your job is to locate the crack. Fear, loneliness, shame, confusion. Then pass the person to the next level. And you feel it in the language. Nobody says victim out loud. They say lead. They say target. They say customer. So your conscience has to fight your vocabulary every day. But here's how level 1 keeps people in line. Numbers. If you don't hit them, you're humiliated. If you do hit them, you're praised. And praise is addictive when you're tired, broke, or stuck. Some call center raids describe commission-style incentives, money tied directly to successful scams. 1. So you become efficient. You stop thinking about the person on the other side of the line as a person. Because the second you see them as a person, your voice changes. And your voice is your paycheck. At level 1, you also learn the first major rule of hierarchy. If you're replaceable, you're disposable. Callers come and go, but the system stays. And if you start to hesitate, if your empathy leaks into your tone, someone behind you notices. Not because they care about ethics, because hesitation costs time, and time costs money. Level 1 ends with a promotion that isn't a promotion. You become a producer, not a title you put on LinkedIn, a function inside a machine. Your job becomes create fear to transfer fear to repeat. And by the time you're good at it, you've learned the most dangerous skill in the building. You can sound sincere while lying. What you think it is, management. What it really is, pressure with a smile. Level 2 is where the tone changes. The people above the floor don't talk like amateurs. They talk like professionals. They don't always shout. They don't always threaten. They coach. They say things like, control the call, don't let the customer breathe, reset the frame. And now you realize the scripts are only half the weapon. The other half is real-time control. A team lead listens to your calls and corrects you mid-sentence, not to make you better at communication, to make you better at extracting obedience. Then you meet the closers. Closers are the reason the floor exists. They're the ones who take the lead when the victim is emotionally ready. This is also where the scam becomes more theatrical. Because law enforcement write-ups and public warnings show a pattern, imposters pretend to be banks, police, government agents, anything that makes fear feel official. 2. So the closer's job is to sound like authority. Not loud authority, calm authority. The kind that makes the victim think, if I argue, I'll get punished. And in some busted networks, roles include forging fake official-looking documents or certificates to reinforce the illusion. 1. That's level 2. Props. The scam becomes a stage, and the victim becomes the audience. Level 2 also has fixers, people who handle victims who start doubting, victims who ask for proof, victims who calm down and become logical again. Logic is the enemy. So fixers have one job: reignite emotion, fear, shame, urgency. At this level, you start seeing the organization as a business. There are departments, callers, team leads, document, people, money people. Nobody does everything, because separation is protection. If one person gets caught, they can only describe their piece. And level 2 introduces another rule. The best scams are designed so the worker believes a smaller lie. The floor believes it's just talking. The closers believe it's just a transaction. The fixers believe it's just persuasion. Only the top sees the whole harm. That's why level 2 is dangerous. It turns harm into a job description. What you think it is, the boss with money. What it really is, distance from consequences. Level 3 isn't sitting on the floor with a headset. Level 3 is upstairs, or remote, or invisible. This layer doesn't care about your script. It cares about scale. It cares about recruiting workers, replacing workers, and keeping the pipeline alive. This is where you see the call center like a factory. The factory needs people to make calls, people to keep them calling, people to turn the stolen money into something usable. And that last part is the real spine of the operation. Because scams aren't finished when the victim is convinced. They're finished when the money is moved, split, and hidden. Research on cybercrime networks often discusses role types like core members and money mules in the financial chain. 3. In plain language, someone has to touch the money, and the organization tries to make sure it's never the real boss. So, level 3 builds a buffer, a money layer that sits between the theft and the organizer. It's not glamorous. It's just what keeps the machine alive. And when law enforcement raids a big call center, they often talk about leaders, managers, and people in charge versus the workers on the floor. 4. That difference matters because it shows you the final truth of the hierarchy. The higher you are, the less risk you personally touch. The lower you are, the more risk your body carries. Level 3 also has the coldest skill in the building. They keep workers emotionally numb. Because if workers feel guilt, they slow down. If they slow down, profit drops. So level 3 turns harm into metrics. Conversion rates, average take, success per agent, penalties for failure, bonuses for wins. It's not just crime, it's management. And that is why scam call centers can scale across borders and survive arrests, because the structure is copy-paste. Replace the floor, keep the model.